This is Mars. And this small, gold-wrapped spacecraft, slipping into orbit around it, was built by India. Here is the strange part. It cost less than the Hollywood movie about space that was playing in cinemas the same year. India reached Mars on its very first try, something the United States, Russia, and Europe all failed to do on their first attempts. So how does a country that spends a fraction of what NASA spends keep doing the things only superpowers are supposed to do? The answer is 60 years old, and it begins not with a rocket, but with a question about poverty. Go back to the 1960s. India is newly independent, desperately poor, and has just lived through war and hunger. Spending money on space sounds almost offensive. But a young physicist named Vikram Sarabhai makes an argument that flips the logic. He says a poor nation does not have less reason to be in space. It has more. Because a single satellite can leapfrog problems on the ground. It can warn a fisherman about a storm. It can carry a lesson to a village with no school. It can find water under dry land. So India built its space agency not as a trophy, but as a tool for development. Picture the early days. A rocket cone carried to the launch site on a bicycle, and a quiet fishing village church used as the first workshop. That founding idea, space in the service of ordinary people, is the seed of everything that follows. Now move forward to the early 1990s. India is ready to build powerful rockets, but it needs one hard piece of technology. A cryogenic engine, the kind that burns super cold fuel to lift heavy satellites. India signs a deal with Russia to learn how. And then the deal collapses. The United States, citing international controls on missile technology, pressures a newly broke post-Soviet Russia to cancel the transfer. India is left with a few finished engines and no designs, no manuals, no way to make its own. It is a door shut in India's face. But here is the first turn in our story. The thing meant to stop India forced India to build the engine itself. It took years of failure and patience. And then India joined the tiny handful of nations on Earth that can build a cryogenic engine from scratch. The bloc did not weaken India. It removed India's dependence. And that pattern, a denial turning into self-reliance, was about to repeat again and again. Because money was scarce from the very first day, ISRO turned thrift into a discipline. Not a slogan, a method. Reuse what already works. The Mars craft borrowed its body and much of its design from India's earlier moon mission. Keep the team small and the payloads light. Build at home to dodge both import bills and sanctions. And the results read almost like a misprint. The Mars mission cost about $74 million. NASA's own Mars orbiter that same year cost nearly 10 times as much. Worked out per kilometer of the journey, India's mission came to roughly 7 rupees, which, as people love to point out, is cheaper than an auto rickshaw ride across an Indian city. The moon landing, a decade later, cost about the same, less than the budget of many films. And that frugality quietly became a business. India's workhorse rocket once placed 104 satellites into space in a single launch, a world record at the time. India has since carried more than 400 foreign satellites into orbit for other nations, earning real money doing it. The poverty that should have been a ceiling had become a market edge. But the deepest proof of Sarabhai's idea is not on Mars or the moon. It is on the coast of Odisha. In 1999, a super cyclone struck that shoreline with very little warning, and around 10,000 people died. 14 years later, in 2013, a storm just as ferocious, Cyclone Phelan, aimed at almost the same coast. This time, India's own weather satellites had been tracking it for days. The warnings went out early. And in one of the largest evacuations in the country's history, more than 1 million people were moved inland to safety before it made landfall. The death toll this time was a few dozen. The same coast, the same fury, 2 completely different endings. And the single thing that changed was days of warning. sent down from satellites that India had built for itself. That is the founding promise of the whole program, paid back in human lives. So step back and look at the whole shape of it. Being poor forced India to be frugal. Being cut off forced India to be self-reliant. And frugal plus self-reliant turns out to be the exact recipe for a space power that can do enormous things on a small budget. In 2023, India became the fourth country ever to land on the moon and the first to touch down near its mysterious South Pole. The nation that was once refused a rocket engine now launches satellites for the United States and builds missions hand in hand with NASA. ISRO does all of this on around $1.5 billion a year, roughly a 15th of NASA's budget, with a workforce of about 15,000 people. The lesson India taught the world, almost by accident, is simple. You do not reach the stars by spending the most money. You reach them by wasting the least. That is the Sphota. The next time you hear that an Indian rocket cost less than a movie, you will know it was never a fluke. It is 60 years of turning every single limit into an engine. This has been Sphota, India.